My name's Ahshuwah Hawthorne.
And I'm Ryan Finlay.
Yeah, so we're just two Bitcoin dads. We're not perfect parents or experts. But if you're like us, you know that parenting is really hard. It's probably the hardest thing you'll ever try in life, and that we all need all the help we can get. And if you're like us, you've probably reached out for help from someone that's maybe a step or two ahead of you to get advice. Hey, what was this like? How'd you deal with this issue? So hopefully we can just be a help, be an encouragement, and just help lay some foundations for you, and then give some practical tips of things that have been helpful for us. And then we'll have 10 or 15 minutes at the end for Q&A, talking, asking questions. And we've actually included some of our proof of work here, so you could even direct your questions at our kids. I didn't tell them that, but I'm cool with that if they are.
Yeah, so I have 5 of my 6 children here, up here in the first couple rows, or actually a couple. They're sprinkled. Yeah. And then Osh has 3 of his 8. So between us.
No, I got 4.
You have 4? Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So we have several of our own kids here. I've been a dad for almost 20 years. Osh has been a dad for almost 19. We're still learning. So yeah, don't take anything what we say as like we have it all together and we've or perfected anything. So. Also, we do a live podcast. We're a part of the Thank God for Bitcoin podcast each Tuesday. Jordan Bush is in the house. Yeah, so you can find that on X or YouTube, and catch us weekly. I think it starts at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So, yeah, and we talk a lot about parenting and raising kids, and it's kind of crazy world. So,
yep, lots of Bitcoin dad stuff. Twitter handles are up there if you guys are on Twitter. So let's just start by defining some terms, okay? I'll be laying the philosophical underpinnings of our parenting philosophy, and then Ryan will get really practical. So first, defining our terms. What is fiat culture? Well, if you were in the previous session, it really laid a lot of these good foundations. Fiat money printing has incentivized consumption and self-centered living. It's the air we breathe, the water we swim in this culture. Fiat promises that we can get something for nothing by bypassing the law of sowing and reaping. Okay, this is a basic law of physics as well as a biblical principle, right? There's sowing. What you sow, that shall you reap. It's just how the world works. Fiat is something for nothing. It tries to entirely bypass that simple principle. And when governments and banks print money ex nihilo, right, out of nothing, and declare something to be true simply because they said so, they're essentially playing God. That's what fiat means, is to declare, to just say it by fiat. Because you said it, it's true. As though, right, just because Uncle Sam has the government and the guns, they can make things so. It's actually not so. We have reality to deal with. Second term, low time preference. So low time preference means valuing long-term impact over short-term gain. It means making decisions for lasting legacy and not for immediate consumption. It's putting in the proof of work to gain a future reward. One of my favorite proverbs is Proverbs 27:18. He who tends a fig tree will eat its fruit. The most basic, simple, universal concept. But somehow we keep thinking we can eat fruit without putting in the hard work. Or we're too lazy to do the hard work, or we can't see the fruit yet, so we give up. It takes time. It takes proof of work. This is kind of the difference between going to the store, right, with your fiat currency and buying the fruit, and it's going to go bad. You got to eat it right away, versus planting an orchard with your kids, so that someday your great-grandkids and your great-great-grandchildren have food to feed them for generations. So, those are our terms. Now, we're going to talk about fiat culture's effect on our kids. We think it's the worst tragedy, or one of the worst, is the impact on our kids. Most parents want their kids to grow up to be well-adjusted adults who go to a good college, get a decent job, and maybe give them a grandchild or two. But then, and maybe this is a caricature, but this is what we observe. They go about, they pump them full of pharmaceuticals and junk food. They outsource education to devices, government schools, and woke universities, and then wonder why their kids are addicted, depressed, single, and drowning in debt. Right? With fiat money printing, the chickens are finally coming home to roost. This next younger generation is the first time in American history that the young generation is poorer than their parents. Now, as Bitcoiners, we know that our fiat system is perfectly designed to get the results that we are getting. So behind the Malthusian overpopulation myths and women's rights activism is actually an effort to replace the family with the state and the corporation as the central unit of society, right? The goal of the government school system, if you go back and study Rockefeller and his role in our public school system, is to create compliant factory workers and politically conforming NPCs, non-player characters, if you don't know that Gen Z term, and rather than actual virtuous free citizens. Okay? The birth rates, they decline in wealthy secular societies because when political ideology replaces God, people are incentivized to become selfish and high time preference. But here's the question I want us to ask, because I think Bitcoiners can get a little too utopian sometimes. Does that saying, fix the money, fix the world, also apply to solving the problems that the next generation is facing? Is it overpromising, or does it actually fix things? So, now, I think to answer that, we need to go deeper. We need to ask, hey, what is the actual goal of low time preference parenting? What do we want our kids to be like as adults? And here's the little midwit meme, if you're not familiar with it. So, right, we know we don't want to just breed more NPCs and midwits, right? Okay, but what should actually be the goal of low time preference parenting? Is this enough? Don't breed midwits. Is there something else? And then once we have that goal, how do we actually accomplish it when everything in fiat culture and society and incentivization is moving against it? Is it enough just to teach Bitcoin to our kids and all of a sudden we got these great kids? Well, I want to argue. We want to argue it's not that simple. It goes deeper. And so I want to share with you, my oldest is going to college next year, and we were reading through the college honor code as a family. And we feel like this really perfectly captures what our goal in parenting is. And this is from that honor code. It says, the student is honorable in conduct, honest in word and deed, dutiful in study and service, and respectful of the rights of others. Through education, the student rises to self-government. Okay, that key term, self-government. Now, Bitcoiners, we love this idea of self-government, right? Right? But here's the thing. Self-government is not the same thing as anarcho-capitalism. Hate to break it to you. The goal of parenting is not simply to raise sovereign individuals who have a big stack of Bitcoin and live in their own citadel in some country without government interference. This is just not it. This common Bitcoiner idea confuses self-government with no government, right? The goal of self-government is far more difficult to attain and far more rewarding than just living as a libertarian without government overreach. Self-government starts with character and virtue and begins internally. It begins in the heart and in the habits of the soul and cannot simply be taught from the outside. I'm going to break that down, even just go one step deeper. How do we define self-government? Well, this is that college honor code. They're going to break this out a little more clearly. They say self-government is a challenge with the promise of a rich reward, liberty of the soul. A soul enjoys liberty when it is ordered, when its passions are ruled by reason and its habit is virtue. The college exists for the improvement and ultimate happiness of its students. And this is what we would argue, is that you and your kids will not be truly happy and content with OG status Bitcoin stacks and some citadel in El Salvador. Happiness comes from being a virtuous person who has first mastered self-government and has put in the proof of work into their family so that their home is their citadel, wherever it is. And their mind and soul is free no matter what the governing authorities say or impose upon them from the outside. And here's the thing, but without self-government and virtue, even if we live in some libertarian utopia under a Bitcoin standard, we will be enslaved to high time preference mindsets. Because as the ancient wisdom of Ecclesiastes says, all things are weariness, a man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear with hearing. Right? We still bring our hearts with us. Or the quote from Interstellar, Dr. Mann, played by Matt Damon, he says, when we left Earth, we thought we were leaving evil behind us, but you bring it with you. It's in you. So you've heard this, perhaps the fallacy of the noble savage. You ever hear this? This is the concept that civilization corrupts us. Fiat culture corrupts us. And so go out into the jungles and find the savage. And there you will find perfect harmony and wholeness, right? And then lo and behold, wait, they're like eating each other for lunch because they looked at their neighbor funny, right? You actually can't just remove yourself from fiat culture and fix your own heart or your kids' hearts. It takes the cultivation of virtue, and we would add the grace of God. Because freedom is not the absence of restrictions, it's about submitting to the right restrictions that correspond with your nature. If you want to play piano like Troy Cross, you need to submit yourself to the rules of music, right? And put in thousands of hours of practice. But once you've done that hard work and you've submitted yourself to those rules of music, then you can experience the freedom of playing beautiful music. Or if you're a jazz musician, you can jam because you first put in the proof of work. And now I'm gonna kind of close this with one more quote that I think ties this together. Self-government and liberty of soul is more caught than taught, and it has to be learned in the home. Self-governing families are best equipped to raise up the next generation of independent thinkers and sovereign individuals. And here's a C.S. Lewis quote. He perfectly captures what Bitcoiners also know, that our fiat culture in and of itself can only create government shills, right? Virtue needs to start from within, but then you're going to meet really quick fiat culture and its attempts to control. This is what he says. He says, I believe man is happier and happy in a richer way if he has the freeborn mind. That's the same as this idea of self-governance. But I doubt whether he can have this without economic independence, or we might say without Bitcoin, which the new society is abolishing. For economic independence allows an education not controlled by government, and in adult life, it is the man who needs and asks nothing of the government who can criticize its acts and snap his fingers at its ideology. Who will talk like that when the state is everyone's schoolmaster and employer? Not us, right? Because we're holding our own keys. We're doing our parenting ourselves and our education. Final thing, these are assumptions, kind of foundational presuppositions, and then Ryan will jump into some practical advice. Our assumptions. First, stacking kids is even more rewarding than stacking sats, right? When you're on your deathbed, it's not going to matter how big your stack of Bitcoin is. It's going to be who is standing around your deathbed, who cares how you lived and will remember you when you're gone. That's what matters most. That is what's most rewarding and is worth our proof of work. Second, the efficiencies of scale also apply to having kids, If you study business, you know efficiency of scale. You set up a factory, the more you make, the more you scale out, it gets more efficient and easier. So I like to tell young families in my church, I say, above 3 is free. Okay, I have 8. Really, like you have one, and you're like, this is so hard. You're learning as you go, and you're like making every mistake, and you're just like, how could people do more than this? And then you have 2, you're like, oh man, this is even harder. I'm like holding one and taking care of the other. And then you're like, 3, we're outnumbered. What do we do? Once you get like outside of normal like 5-seater and you got to get the minivan or the Suburban, it's a breeze. Because then they start taking care of each other. They're like fellow parents. They're helping out. It's great. Above 3 is free. Trust me. Okay, there's good and bad authority, and we need to teach our kids the difference. Bitcoiners tend to be anti-authority. But if you don't exercise authority in your children's life, you will inherently teach them that they're the center of the universe. And they'll think they're the center of the home. And they'll become the authority. And you won't like being home. And you won't enjoy being around your kids. So we need to teach proper authority. We instill that from the beginning. But then at the same time, we have to teach that we're under authority, that there's other rightful authorities. Because, right, so they see that, okay, wait a minute, mom and dad are authority, but you know what? Mom and dad apologize. When mom and dad make mistakes, they're under other people's authority. They're not God. And so that teaches our kids both to respect proper authority and challenge and stand against improper authority. We need to teach both. And then finally, if you start with discipline before they are 2, you can trust them with freedom when they're 16. Okay, a lot of like gentle parenting philosophy in fiat culture is you give them all the freedom they want. You let them kind of like self-discover and explore who they are and blossom. And so you have full freedom. And then what happens is when they're teenagers and they're actually old enough to like get arrested or get someone pregnant or like genuinely get in real trouble, now we're like, oh, shoot, like pulling the reins. And you're trying to like rescue your kid from self-harm and harming others because you didn't instill wisdom in the beginning. They don't have wisdom to start out with. So you don't give much freedom, and then as they grow and show wisdom, you can give more and more freedom. And then, yeah, when they're teenagers, you're like, hey, well, I trust you with this. Here's the keys. Go out with your friends. Like there's freedom that's come. And by God's grace, we're starting to experience. I have a newborn and an almost 19-year-old, so it's like a little of both. But there you go. Ryan, give us some practical advice. Tell us how it's done.
This talk and this part of the talk was hard to, like, how do you distill down so many like deep subjects into like a short 15-minute? And so I'm literally just going to scratch the surface, and we kind of listed out some of the most impactful ones. Like if you can get, if I can share anything that is of value, these are a couple of the things. So where are we at? That's the next one. Good. Yeah, so the first thing is your kids are going to copy much more of what you do than what you say. So the reality is if you're not load time preference, your kids won't end up load time preference. And it's not enough to be load time preference in one thing. Like I think a lot of Bitcoiners are low time preference when it comes to investments and money. But you need to like do some self-examination, like look at your whole life, and it's huge. I mean, at the end of the day, they're going to copy what they see lived out in the majority of your life. So take that seriously. And I mean, that's the sobering, like humbling thing about being a parent. Like, our kids are reflections of us, and they mirror our behaviors, our strengths, and our weaknesses. So I think the number one way to be low time preference is taking care of yourself physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Again, this isn't a Bitcoin thing. This is more important than Bitcoin. As parents, we're the most important people in our children's lives. We need to take care of ourselves. That's the ultimate low time preference things. Our goal should be to live our basically run the race of our life well, our journey, and aspire to finish well. So think about the future often, think about finishing well, and like do the things today that's going to enable that to happen. Second, cultivate a happy marriage. Good marriages are a result of proof of work and not somehow finding the perfect match. It's completely opposite of what our culture thinks. Our culture thinks that you put in a ton of the work and you try to find some perfect person out there. That perfect person doesn't exist. We're all broken. We all have problems. We all have issues. And it's good to go into marriage knowing that. And it's just like anything else that of value in this world. It takes work to pull off a good marriage. And a committed marriage is the stability that children need to thrive. Like, again, they don't know how to articulate it, but a happy marriage is like the greatest gift that you could ever give to your kids. Just straight up. Divorce is the ultimate rug pull on children. I'm not trying to step on anyone's toes. I don't know everyone's background, but I just want to know that like our culture has gotten far too comfortable just saying, it's tough, I'm going to quit. Well, straight up. That's one of the hardest things in the entire world that you can put kids through. So just knowing that, it is important. That is true. The date your spouse weekly, like that's just a super practical thing. Like, what's important, we make time for. And if your spouse is important, like put in the time, put in the work, spend time with them. Like we have 6 kids, like it gets harder. Like, life is crazy, life is busy. But you got to keep working on your marriage and your relationship with your spouse. Cultivate a strong family. So, I'm kind of going out. I think it was order amoris. So self, marriage, family. I started off with mom staying home. When my wife and I got married, we're at I think we're celebrating 21 years this fall. I was so young and immature, but just by God's grace, we started off I wanted to enable my wife to stay home and be with our kids and raise them and work in our home. And we made that decision and we made sacrifices to pull it off. And really today, it really does take, it takes quite a sacrifice to pull that off. You have to have a vision for it, and you have to be willing to work hard and adjust your life and your budget to pull it off. But if you talk to my kids, it was one of the greatest decisions that we made. Second, dad has the freedom and flexibility. I'm talking just for myself, flexibility to be in the children's life. I often talk to my kids about planning your life in reverse. Create what you want your home to look like, and what does your job look like? If you're thinking about a job that takes you away from home for 6 months a year, it's going to be tough to parent your kids. You're not going to be there. Whoever's around your kids is the one that's raising them. And if you have flexibility, or if that's within your power, consider a career path that enables you to be with your family. Building a business, and this is the same thing. Being outside the home all day long, it's totally doable. You can absolutely do it, and there's a lot of people that do really well at it. If you're able to have your own business, it's just more flexibility. It enables you more time to spend. You can invite your kids into your work, teaching them how to work. I'll go over that in a future slide. Another one, being generous with your children and raising them to be good stewards of their time, talents, and treasure. I saw a tweet. I'm not going to say who it was, just this last week, but it's kind of a common thing in our culture. We don't want to spoil our kids. We don't want to give them an inheritance. The Bible talks about a righteous man leaving an inheritance to his children's children, and it's completely backwards what our culture says. Oh, we're going to spoil our kids. Raise your kids to be better stewards of their wealth than you are. And we would all in our room say, "Hey, I'm a good steward. I buy lots of Bitcoin. I stack. I put things off." Raise your kids to be even better than you, and then give them what's left over. There's nothing wrong with that. That's literally how you can do good into the future, and then their kids and your grandkids and great grandkids. It's you can continue to pour into the world and improve the world for generations to come. And that's not selfish. That's literally it's the most loving thing you could do if you raise them well. And that's a great thing to aspire to. taking responsibility for the education of your children. I think this is one of the biggest things that our culture is deceived by. Like, we've kind of been duped into thinking that it's okay to outsource the education of our kids. It's literally the most important thing of parenting. That's our number one job. Again, part of it was my experience in public school was so terrible. When we first started having kids, I was like, I'm never sending my kids to public school, ever. It was the worst experience ever. And so, like, we're gonna homeschool. So I didn't even have like this huge list of like really solid reasons of why we homeschooled, but we homeschooled. And so my oldest he turns 20 in September, and we homeschooled all the way through, and it was the best decision we've ever made when it comes to like educating our kids. Ultimately, we need to take responsibility from beginning to end. No matter where your kids are schooled, if it's private school, tutoring, whatever, ultimately the responsibility lands on us. Like, it's not someone else's responsibility. They're our kids. I think our culture tries to get us to pass off the responsibility on others, and we have to fight against that. Also, education, it's not just information being shoved into their heads, it's character formation. We were talking yesterday just about like AI and how much it's going to disrupt work and things like that, and like, how do you prepare your kids for work? Huge question we're constantly wrestling with. Raise kids with solid character, like, that work hard, that show up on time, they're honest, like, they're curious, they have integrity, they're set. Like, in a world where everything's constantly changing, like, you give any employer any day of the week would take a kid like that, because they're going to work hard, they're going to do their best, they're honest, they're going to show up. I mean, talk to any businesses today. That's the biggest problem. Like, the younger generation coming up, it's just like this entitled, like, they don't want to be there. It's like the work ethic's not there, the discipline's not there. So it's literally like, I would say, information's important. I'm going to get to that too, but the character part, and the reality is, you have to be there to instill that character in them. It's just living life with them. It's husbands and wives working together to, time spent, and that's how it gets passed on. I already got that. Teach your children to enjoy work. Work is a blessing, and again, our culture doesn't say, like, we do whatever we can to get out of work. Work's a blessing. The better we are at certain types of work, the more the more enjoyment we can get out of it. And so the younger that you teach your children that work is a blessing, they're not trying to avoid it. They don't spend their life trying to get away from it as much as they can. The better they get at something, building that confidence. I think that was one of the best things that I saw. Just pick any skill that you teach your kids, and they get really good at it. They basically get a confidence that they can learn anything. And in going into the future, when so much of the world's about to change, that's a huge things that you can gift your kids. Encouraging them to work or start working early is it's the best time for them to explore different types of work. I mean, this whole, again, like, waiting to have kids start working until they're after high school, it's the most painful thing you could do. Because what happens? The pressure of life gets super expensive. All of a sudden, it's like, now they're on their own. They're having to pay rent or buy a house. Like, it's unbelievable. So we started our kids super young. My oldest, he's still 19, but he started programming when he was 9. So he's been a software developer for 11 years now. He's full-time. He's got, he just unlimited side work. He's been working with Marty Bent recently. He just built his opportunity cost app. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. So, yeah, and he just, yeah. But again, he was able, we homeschooled him. So Moses he was programming for 3 or 4 hours a day for 10 years, over the last 10 years, just because that was part of his curriculum. Like, he loved to do it, and he got really good at it. And you have the flexibility to do that if you homeschool. The other thing is, when kids, like, it's teaching, when they work, they earn. And when they earn, you can teach them to save, and you can teach them about Bitcoin. Like, it's just the most practical, like, it's just built in. It's such an incredible time to teach kids about money and how to be good stewards of it. Also, there's like there's thousands of lessons that you can teach in the moment when you're working with your kids. Is this the last one? Perfect. This was another significant gift you can give to your kids is talking about the future often. Again, that's a low tide preference thing. Our culture, lives in the moment, doesn't talk about the future, doesn't think about the future often. But yeah, give them a vision for their future, their work, their family, faith, their purpose. Nobody cares about the future flourishing or their future flourishing more than you do. And show them that. Just as a coach can see our strengths and our, players, parents can uniquely see and encourage the strength of their children. I mean, they don't know what they're going to do in this world, but like you're watching them, and the more time you spend with them, and especially when you're working with them, you're going to pick up their strengths, their weaknesses, things that like you can see their eyes light up. And that's what I've done with each one of my kids. I have my 3 older boys. Fortunately, I had 3 boys in a row and then 3 girls in a row. So I've been, I was able to, that was neatly compartmentalized. But it was a lot of work. Like my oldest sophomore development, next one, like Elijah, I have no idea what I was going to recommend or encourage him into. And Share about what the other boys did. Yeah. So Elijah, he went into videography. So I'm like watching him build Legos endlessly when he was young, and I'm like, what in the world what do I do with that? Like, how do I channel that into like a useful skill set that he can like provide for himself and add value to the world? And I watched one of those stop motion videos, the Lego videos, and I'm like, oh, Elijah, you got to watch this. And boom, that's what started his video production like journey. And so he spent 5 years into it now? Yeah, so he's spent the last 5 years. Now he's doing lots of weddings every year. He does media production for lots of different companies. He's also working with Marty Bent. He's producing videos for him. He does marketing content for lots of different businesses. So I mean, he's also already out of high school now and full time in video. So and also, I mean, I don't want to take up all the time, but yeah, I have a goal to do that with each one of our kids. And part of the reason I have that goal is our communities often spend 18 years, and we often spend 18 years investing in our kids. They get plugged into the community, and because there's no vision, they get sent off, and they just leave. And they go to other communities, they go to where colleges are, and I honestly think it's crazy. The children are our community's most valuable resource. You should try to retain them in the community so that they can flourish there as much as possible. But that takes a vision. It takes foresight. Spend as much time as you possibly can to get your kids the skills they need to enable them to stay in your community. The hardest thing for a young person is to go to another community and completely start over. No connections, no community, no family, no church. There's a whole support network, and then they're especially if they start their own family, it's a uniquely American thing. They're like, hey, just go off and be by yourself, and and be blessed, and like go through the hardest part of your life all by yourself without our support. Like it's crazy. So anyways, think about that deeply, and yeah, I think it's an awesome vision to help pass on to our kids. So
we got 10 minutes for Q&A in the back. Oh, 5 minutes? Okay. Sorry, only 5 minutes. I thought you said we were in charge.
You've done such an excellent job. I can't not let you keep going.
Okay. Questions, pushbacks, discussion, anything in the back.
I just had a statement I'd like to say about being homeschooled. I was homeschooled until 4th grade. And looking back on it, it was amazing because I would finish I'm smarter than the average kid, but I would finish my schoolwork in 2 hours as required by the state. But after that, the rest of the day, I would either read encyclopedias or I would play outside. How many kids going to public school would have that experience? That's all.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Will.
Third kid, what did he do? The third son.
Yeah, so he started a landscaping business and did really well, because there's no other kids at work, so it's unlimited landscaping jobs for him. And started saving his money, and I'm like, okay, how do I help him make more money per hour? And so like we started brainstorming ideas and how he could take some of his profits to buy equipment to enable him to make more. And so he bought a really high end pressure washer. So now he has a pressure washing business, and he's probably $50, $75 an hour he's making now, sometimes $100 an hour. And he's 16, so he bought his own truck. So yeah, I mean, that was a game changer. Like, so now I'm not dropping him off at customers' houses and leaving and coming back. Like, I was totally doing that. But yeah, so, and they all stack sats with all of their like disposable income. Like, that's another thing. Again, that's a longer discussion, but like, we've spent a lot of time. They've had to listen to their insufferable dad talk about Bitcoin nonstop for the last 6 years or so, and but yeah, they get it, and it's awesome. It's beautiful to see because like they're demonstrating low time preference, and yeah.
Back?
Yeah, so I've got 3 kids. My oldest is 6. He's just starting in school. I'm planning on homeschooling them. Similarly, when we got married 15 years ago, I was like, homeschool sucks. So for me, and my wife was like a little co-op, so she didn't experience it. I was like, yeah, it was terrible. But I kind of feel with the advent of AI and robotics coming in, it's really hard to look at like what do I want to instill in my kids so that they can have a successful future if in the utopian version of that there is no economic value in doing work for other people, right? That can be done faster and cheaper by AI and robotics. So I've been trying to grapple with and sort through what does it look like to teach your kids about a future where their value isn't potentially going to be economically important. And I have thoughts about that, but I was wondering what your thoughts were, and how you're approaching that for your younger kids.
So I'll repeat the question for the tape, and maybe I know Ryan, you put a lot of thought into this. So the question is as you teach your kids about work and the future and help direct them, how should we think about AI and the disruption that it's providing within so many industries?
Yeah. I think it's going to take. I mean, it's going to be. I mean, it's going to be very, very disruptive to work, but it always tends to take longer than we think it's going to. So, like, it's. Yeah. Again, I would say the really short answer, the character formation is the biggest thing. Like, it's literally looking at like making the list of character traits that you want your kids to be instilled in your kids, and I would say curiosity, humility, just like a curiosity of how the world works, how to add value. Like, that's one of the biggest, allowing them to be bored, because there's going to be value that we have to offer other people that we're going to get paid for long into the future. AI is not going to disrupt everything right away. It's going to take a really long time, and again, we have no idea what it's going to look like. But yeah, it's being flexible. Like, I think being willing to adjust, things like that. Obviously, it's a much longer like there's certain like sectors and types of jobs, like if that you might want to steer them away from. But yeah, again, it's the intangibles of character that I think are more important.
Yeah, and I would just add the value of skilled trades is vastly underrated, and Optimus droids will not in scale replace electricians that need to be able to show up at your house and crawl under your like floorboards to fix an electrical or a plumbing issue. It's just not going to happen. So that's worth directing them in. Yeah, go ahead.
For those of us who, I'm curious about how, with the homeschooling situation, how do you encourage community, given that you kind of not ostracize yourself, but pulling away from society to a certain degree? And if you have any advice for how to achieve that with like role models and stuff like that, and if you could gear the advice a little bit towards people who have had to separate from their faith communities potentially, because I know that can be sounds like a big source of community for you.
Yeah, so I'll close with this with the because our time is near the end and we got lunch. So yeah, first I would say home education doesn't mean you're separating from society. And it is true, yes, for us, our faith community is really foundational. And we would even encourage folks to choose where to live based on that strong faith community. And so, yeah, things happen. You're like, oh, I have this job opportunity. I have to come over here and all that. But if you can architect your future and you look at the trajectories you want to be on, it's important. Like we believe one of the big stones that you put in the bucket first is finding that solid faith community, because then you are educating your kids in that community. Your wife is finding support. She's not lonely, stuck at home with toddlers.
Because our health is so connected to that personally. Like as a dad, like I meet with 40 other brothers like every single week. I mean, that's just. And same thing with, it's part of taking care of, ourselves and our wives. So, which if we're not healthy, it goes downhill and it ends up impacting our kids. But, our kids were in public school sport. There's lots of ways, like getting involved in the community, like doing, community service projects. There's lots of different ways to connect. It just depends on where you live. And, we're also we'll be around during lunch. Like we could spitball out, or brainstorm different other ways. So
okay, we're gonna have to call it. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.